Hello everybody, this is Snarist, and welcome back to the continuation of my Ultra Age hard difficulty walkthrough. This is part 7, Terminal Dungeon. And a lot of elements from the very first dungeon when it comes to enemies that are shielded by this sort of blue coating here. Use the lightning blade to disrupt them. It's not essential, but they take a lot more damage if you don't use it. And you want to try using the claymore to parry a lot more in this, because I don't do so well in the beginning here, and I'm pretty sure, if memory serves me correctly, I do end up getting killed. And it's going to be a bit of a weird string of commentaries, because I've only had a small amount of sleep, and I've got to leave for work in maybe about 4 or 4.5 hours. I did plan on waking up at least for the next hour or so, just so I can get these commentaries done, but you know, I have a feeling that by the time I go off to work, it's not going to be super great, and I'm either going to get tired near the end, or I'm going to get very tired after it's all over. Because for those of you who don't know, you know, I live in Australia, and when it comes to Australia, sometimes you have to go from town to town to do your jobs, and me, I've got about a 45-minute drive ahead of me and then back again. And while it's not ideal, and I'm definitely working on that, yeah, I have a feeling I'm going to get pretty fucked up by the afternoon. Maybe another early night for me. But these enemies here that are glowing green, these are healing robots. Now what these do is they constantly pump out health to other robots, meaning this big sucker here, no matter how much you do damage against him, he'll always regenerate more health than you will take off him unless you kill those robots. So you'll see here now that because we've already got our critical rage upgraded as much as we can, that I got some health back on those hits. So I went from having almost no health to having half my health. That's because for every hit you get 5 points. That's why I'd kind of recommend switching to a blade that attacks faster and more frequently, but doesn't necessarily do more damage. And this is mostly going to be the same as the last dungeon goes. Just make sure you get your claymore ready. There's going to be a lot more robots going on, so you want to use your parry for the claymore, and just keep mashing triangle when you can, or if you need to clear the distance, just do square, square, triangle, or X, X, Y, depending on what console, or, you know, I don't know what the controls will be on PC, but even though I am playing on PC, I don't use the keyboard. And I suppose really the pastime on this video is just to kind of say that the commentary isn't necessarily going to decline all that much more compared to others. It's just going to be a little bit slower, because, you know, I just woke up, and, you know, I think I can get the rest of the commentary for Ultra Age over and done with, because it's not a very long commentated series. But I just want to bring up as well that as of right now, I'm going to upload my first 2 Dead Space 2 videos pretty soon. But right now, with the end of my Eternights Pure Phillip Challenge run, I have now gotten 100 videos on my channel, and I've also got my first 1,000 views with all of the videos collectively put together. That does mean an average of about 10 views per video, but I know the reality is that most of my videos do have less than 10 views. There are a few of them that have above it, but then there are those few exceptional that have a lot of views. Like my top 3 videos performance-wise are, see, look at that, I mistimed the judging. Oh, I misjudged the timing, so I was trying to avoid the drone's attacks, but I ended up getting pounced on by the robot and killed. So you can see I've lost half the crystals I was holding, but because I've got the most amount of upgrades that I can put into the item pool, if I go back in there and do just as well as I did, maybe even more so, then I can recover all those crystals I lost, plus a little bit extra. So that way I'm never truly running out of crystals, and I'm never ending up with nothing, just as long as the performance is there. So yeah, the area will usually contain a wide variety of different robots, but when it comes to the enemies that are organic, it'll usually have 1 or 2 drop-a-wells. If it's got 1 drop-a-well like this, it'll probably have these like little chicken things in there. I forgot what they're called, and I've got the loaded resolution preview on my video editor that I'm watching right now as I'm commentating, so I can't really tell what the name is. But yeah, what was I talking about? Something about... Oh, well. Anyway, the video's performance. So everything's going pretty good so far, and I'm definitely enjoying myself. I keep thinking about it more and more, and I'm usually someone that hesitates a lot when it comes to certain things, and I started having some... I died again, yeah. I started having some more thoughts about streaming, and as much as I would like to, I don't really have the time, and then I thought more realistically about it, and I'm like, okay, well, one of these days I am going to move into a place that is a little bit closer to work, so I've got more time to do this sort of thing. It wouldn't be completely unrealistic to pick some times throughout the week where I'm going to be alone, or there's not going to be anyone else around me, so I can afford a little bit of time to stream. But the problem is, the sooner I can do it, the better off I'll be, but I'm just not in that headspace, and I'm not ready to do it just yet. So I don't think I'll be bothering streaming for a while. Like, I wanted to save it for the God of War remake, or the trilogy remake, because I feel like that's a good series to really get into to start with when it comes to streaming, because not only will it get a lot of attention from all sorts of different crowds, but at the same time, I know the God of War games very, very well, and they're some of my favourites. And it just leads into another thing too. I was already kind of worried about what it would turn out to be, but somebody put the horrific prospect in my head that we could very much be getting a God of War trilogy remake that has the over-the-shoulder camera that 2018 in Valhalla had, and that to me is absolutely horrifying to think about. Like, there's so many awesome moments within the original games where the wide camera actually works, or you're fighting like the satyrs. I'm like, can you imagine trying to fight the satyrs or the Cerberus breeder in God of War 3 with an over-the-shoulder camera if they keep all that stuff there? Wouldn't that be horrifying? I think that'd be just disgusting. So, yeah, that's more or less my biggest problem there. Because if they fuck it up, like, it's definitely going to be another black pill in gaming that I've had to swallow, but because it's not the only one, it might just be the worst one if they fuck it up, like, badly enough. Because I think the first time when I was playing games that I ever truly felt like, a black pill moment was Call of Duty. Because for the most part, I'd stuck with PS2 games and the odd PS3 game from other people that own PS3s, because I didn't. Because I had my PS2, I still do, but I played it almost exclusively till about 2011, or a bit before 2011. No, actually it was 2011, and that was where I got my first Xbox 360, and the first proper Xbox 360 game I played, owning it by myself, was Call of Duty Black Ops 1, and I love Black Ops 1. I played some of the other CODs through my mate when I went to go visit him in his house, over the weekends when we weren't having school, but yeah, I was in the middle of college, which, for the American viewers, it's basically the British or English way of saying high school. Because we say, that your college is our university, not in terms of like academics, but just the way it's called. And yeah, seeing what it turned into, like, Ghost wasn't great at the time, but I hated on Ghost just because it was popular to do so. But then when I got my hands on a couple of different copies of the game across the generations, I'm like, you know what, Ghost is actually pretty good. It definitely suffers a lot. It was the first COD that felt really odd, and then it led to Advanced Warfare, which I would argue is a lot worse. And Black Ops 3, while it had good gameplay in the campaign and a pretty excellent multiplayer, I think, the campaign itself, in terms of making me care, didn't. And I think the move to push zombies in a story-focused direction with Easter eggs, galore, just to unlock the Pack-a-Punch, I think that was a big mistake. By the way, I'm not entirely sure what these orange glowing mechs are. I'd imagine it's to do with like damage, so they take more damage or something. I know there was a tutorial on it when you first get introduced to different coloured robotics. I think it was down in this dungeon at the beginning that you get to it, but because I played the game enough and I know it's not super difficult, I didn't feel the need to read it. So that's my bad. I would recommend you read it. And there I go, going back to collect the key card, just in case I forget. And because I'm doing pretty well for my health, and I've got full pocket energy, I'm just going to go around and make sure I haven't missed any rooms. You know, some extra fights I can get into for some bonus crystals. Because again, I'm now at the point where I can make tons of crystals, and it would be worth it to pick up as many as I can. And yeah, so that was the first real black pill moment for me. I think the second like big black pill moment for me was probably what would it be? Like, this isn't really a black pill moment, but it was God of War 2018 probably, because it's just so different from what God of War is and what I'm used to that I felt polarized. Like, it was still a good game, but there was so much about it that just wasn't God of War. It's a good game, but it's a poor God of War game. That's just how I think of it, at least. But the next real big like black pill moment for me in gaming was probably The Last of Us 2. That was probably worse than all of the last two of them combined. And the next black pill moment, I don't think there ever was one. Maybe it would be the Callisto Protocol, but because I'm a huge Dead Space fan, but because I actually enjoyed Callisto a fair bit and I got really good at it, I can't really count it. Because I enjoyed Callisto more than I did the Dead Space remake, and that remake wasn't terrible either, all things considered. You know, I talk very negatively of it, but it really isn't that bad. It could be a lot worse. And yeah. So while I definitely have had my disappointments with games over the years, especially the most recent years, there's no game that could probably break me, probably more than God of War. Because as much as The Last of Us Part 1 was a great game, and Part 2 really ruined a lot of its legacy, and put the whole franchise in the toilet basically, you know, you're talking about 3 entire games, not just one. 3 games that, you know, if I had a choice between playing a tightly controlled apocalyptic third-person shooter versus, you know, God of War, the God of War, jumping around as Kratos, hacking and slashing my way through Greek monsters, an incredibly tough challenge, but awesome soundtrack and awesome fights, you know, I'll always prefer God of War over The Last of Us in terms of, like, you know, my ideal games to go back to. I just picked The Last of Us as the game to go back to most of all because it's easy and it's accessible. Because you can only play the original games, or at least the original first 2 games, on PS2, PS3 collection, and as far as I can tell, that's really all there is. It's not on PS4, it's not on PS5, and it doesn't seem like they're going to get any ports to PC, and it doesn't seem like they're going to be re-released like at all anymore. You know, I guess they understand that God of War 3 was an exception, but they're not trying to push for anything more. So I've just finally upgraded the last of my critical rage so it can last longer and it hits harder, and now I've got it back to full again because of it. And I'm just going to increase all of my pocket energy back to full, so now we get about 75 points of health increased when we use pocket energy rather than 25. So our health, our healing triples. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish up some upgrades for the Claymore, and then we're going to move on to the next part of the game. So I'll see you guys then.